Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Ojard, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's webinar, where we're going to take a look at a few things here. We're going to look at the Infor CRM roadmap that Infor just put out within the last couple weeks. We're going to talk about the recently released Infor CRM version 8.4, and we're also going to take a look at Infor CRM Mobile version 4 beta. It's not released yet, however, we do have our hands on beta, and we're going to provide a live demo and go through some of what you can expect when that is finally released. As always, your presenter today is Scott Weber, and I'm just going to mention a couple things before I turn it over to him and we can get started. The first is your line has been placed on mute. However, we encourage you to post any questions you may have to the question pane, and at the conclusion of today's webinar, we will get to as many of those as possible. If for some reason we're unable to answer your question during the webinar or we run out of time, we'll be happy to follow up with you via email. And then also we will be recording this webinar and we will get that posted to customerfx.com by Friday, I would reckon at the latest. So I am going to turn it over to Scott and we can get started.
Thank you, Brianna, and welcome everybody for taking some time to look at this webinar. We try to do these as close to every month as we can, but we don't always succeed with it. And all of a sudden we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about, which is kind of where we are today as information became available to us. So as Bree mentioned, we'll first talk about 8.4 and what's new in that release. It's been out for about a month or so now. And then we'll kind of review the roadmap of what's planned over the next year for Infor CRM. And then I do have a live demo of the mobile version 4, which is in early beta. And so I'll kind of talk about what's different in that as well. Okay, so let's get started with first talking about 8.4 and what has been introduced in that latest version. Now, some of this has, I should say, been present in 8.3 versions as well. However, they have made additional changes to make some of these functions a little more robust. And I'm really talking about the first one, and that's our integration with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So those of you who aren't familiar with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, that is a subscription-based product that you can get from LinkedIn, and it helps you enrich your CRM-related data. And so that is nested within Infor CRM directly, and we'll show you a screenshot of that here as we move forward and sort of what that does. And then kind of the headliner feature that is now part of 8.4 that came out is the Marketo integration. And most of the customers we have are using some kind of digital marketing solution out there. Some of them maybe just constant contact because we just need to get some bulk email sent out, that kind of thing. But the world of digital marketing is really a hot aspect of business software. And up till now, Infor has synchronized with products out there like Acton, Sales Fusion, SwiftPage, and they've also now added a natively built-in product called Inbox Guru. And really all those products I just mentioned not only do email blasts, but have things like landing pages built into them, website visitor tracking, and have the ability to synchronize the data that's being collected on those platforms back to CRM. However, Marketo is really a fairly major step up. It's really considered an enterprise level marketing solution and brings a lot more scalability and a lot more robust features for companies that are really serious and have big budgets regarding their digital marketing efforts. And so we're thrilled that Infor have partnered with Marketo, and we've actually got several customers that are implementing that as we speak. And a lot of that is just because they have this very tight integration they built now with Infor CRM 8.4. The other thing that came out in 8.4 is some real-time pricing for those customers that have an Infor ERP solution, like an SXE or Cloud Suite Industrial or Visual. That integration that exists between Infor CRM and those ERP solutions is done through a product called Ion, or iOS they call it now, but it was always based on kind of a hub and spoke moving of data between the two applications. But now they're also building out more functionality for what we call real-time integration, where we're actually using stored procedures and so forth to do things in CRM, like when I'm creating a quote for a customer in CRM, it can actually go get the pricing, and this can be calculated pricing over in the ERP system and bring the results back into the CRM quote. And again, this is real time. It's not based on data that's synchronizing. So that's been greatly improved as well in the 8.4 release. The other thing we're bringing is multi-regional addresses. This is another part of 8.4 where Infor is building out a lot of multi-language, multi-region functionality. So you're going to see a lot of that kind of functionality. A lot of our bigger customers are global, meaning that they've got people who speak different languages, and they have to support, regional requirements for account storage and address storage and 4-line addresses and Unicode characters and all that stuff that comes into play when you're really a worldwide organization. And so Infor is putting a lot of new functionality and has into 8.4 to support that kind of thing. And then what makes sense too is that they've also added live updates for exchange rates. Infor CRM has always had the ability to support exchange rates, but it was a manual process where the administrator had to go in and keep it updated, saying, okay, if it's Canadian, it's a factor of 1.1 or something like that. So it was very much a manual process, where now that's actually happening automatically. So if your system has multi-currency turned on, and those exchange rates are now going to update themselves automatically on a scheduled basis. Number 6 talks about BOD performance. Again, this is talking about our native integration to the Infor ERP applications. And BODs are business object documents that are actually the data container that's moving data between CRM and the ERP through Ion. And they continue to make that more efficient, faster. There's less latency now that we're seeing in 8.4. And then finally, CPQ, which is Infor's quote and configuration solution. That is also improved in its ability to integrate with Infor 8.4. So those of you that have a need to have a configuration tool, if you have complex products or products that have assemblies and need to guide the salesperson or customer through building the product and pricing it, that's where CPQ comes into play. It is a separate product, but it is now becoming more and more highly integrated into the Infor CRM experience. Okay, next up, this is just a slide that I'll just show you about what Marketo looks like inside of Infor CRM. So those of you that maybe are using Marketo or are thinking about using it, Infor does have demonstration availability for you. So we can actually show you a live working Infor CRM system that's all integrated with Marketo and really dig into the details about what is syncing, what do the screens look like, and how does it really function. I have seen it, and it is pretty incredible how well built and robust this integration is. Certainly one of the best ones out there from what I've seen as far as marketing solutions integrated with Infor. This one is pretty sophisticated. So if you're interested in Marketo, you can get all kinds of information, of course, on their website. But to integrate it with Infor CRM, you would have to be on version 8.4. That's where the native integration is built right in. Okay, the next one is LinkedIn Navigator. Many of you may have seen this before, but if not, this is showing the LinkedIn Navigator tab nested inside of Infor CRM. So again, it's a product that allows you to enrich a CRM record because we're actually using our APIs to say if you've landed on the Abbott Limited or Abbott contact record in CRM, it's going to pass those parameters over to LinkedIn Navigator and then show you inside of a tab in CRM all of the additional data that's available to look at that is stored over on LinkedIn's site. I think it's pretty cool. Next is CPQ, and this is what I had said earlier, is their configure price quoting solution, and this is what it looks like from a screen interface standpoint. And again, this is a product, if you're interested in it, that we can demonstrate for you and how it interacts with your Infor CRM system. Next, we're kind of getting into the highlights and delivery dates for what's coming. So up till now, we're sort of looking backwards, and now we're going to sort of look forward as far as what's coming related to Infor CRM. So what came out in 8.4 is Marketo, an improved Sales Navigator, some additional functionality regarding the Ion integration story, and the ability to synchronize notes is now standard, so that if you're creating notes in Infor CRM, those can sync to the ERP product as well, and vice versa. So that's something new that's come to 8.4. We talked about the regional addresses, exchange rates, and the ERP pricing API for real-time price calculations. Looking into Q1 is Infor 8.4.0.1. These numbers keep getting longer, and they are really concentrating this next release now on Ion workflow enhancements. So again, if you're not real sure what Ion even is, it is a piece of middleware, web-based middleware software that sits between Infor CRM and your Infor ERP solution, and it allows those two systems to synchronize and interact with each other. That's its primary purpose, but it also has a workflow engine built into it. So those companies that use products like maybe a Knowledge Sync or a Task Center, and they rely on those products to do things like email notifications and automated workflows and things like that, Ion can do many of those simple tasks, certainly nowhere near as sophisticated as those third-party solutions. But if you have very simple needs for workflows, like maybe you need a discount approved by a manager or something like that, or you want to get an email if one of your customers made a big purchase, or they have a support ticket with a high urgency level, any of those business examples that would warrant some kind of an alert can now be handled through the Ion software package. So what Infor is trying to do in CRM is deliver to you more ready-to-go alerts and workflows and things like that. So that functionality is there today, but you've got to go build it. So you've kind of somewhat got to get up to speed on how to do those things and how to build out those things in Ion. So what Infor is just trying to give you a little bit of a head start by having some pre-packaged out-of-the-box notifications, escalations, and approvals to kind of get that stuff working for you quicker than it is now. Looking into Q3, into 8.4.02, Visual is one of Infor's ERP solutions, and they're going to be adding bidirectional quotes and orders, as well as the ability to support multiple sites in Visual. And then also for Cloud Suite distribution, they are adding bidirectional quotes and orders with real-time pricing and availability. And again, it's kind of a mixed bag as far as which ERP products from Infor do what when they're integrated with CRM. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these sort of bullet points talking about these specific things, because depending on which one of the Infor ERP solutions you have, some of them already do all of these things today. But what I'm sort of showing you here is that those that don't, this is sort of the roadmap when they're going to add some more robust functionality that does exist for some today, but not others. Okay, the other one that's really kind of exciting to me is the fact that Infor purchased a company called Burst. And Burst is a web-based analytics tool that not only is a data warehouse, but then has very powerful tools for building dashboards and presenting your data to you in meaningful ways. Those that have been on Infor CRM for a while probably remember the days where we had, Visual Analyzer and then Advanced Analytics. Those are products that were white labeled or branded by Infor, but were really somebody else's BI tool that they were remarketing. So they have basically dropped support for those now and are saying, we're not only pretty serious about business intelligence now, we're so serious we bought the best company out there. So Burst is now owned by Infor, and so Infor's planning to capitalize on that by making Burst highly integrated with Infor CRM, as well as all of the different business applications that are in Infor's portfolio. So stand by for more information to come on Burst. I have seen it. Customer FX is going through all the certifications to get up to speed on that product, and everything I've seen about it so far is it is really awesome. Not to mention easy to use and easy to get it up and running and going. So hopefully this is the BI tool they settle on for the long haul, which makes sense since they own the company. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. These are some of the high-level targets that are coming out over the next couple of quarters and second half of the year. And Mobile 4.0, which I will be showing you today, at least in the beta version, is going to be going to market here soon. And it's the first Infor product, at least in the CRM side of the house, that has adopted Infor's SOHO XI controls. And that is an acronym, and I'm actually not sure what it stands for, but it's a standardization of the interface. Infor is trying hard to make all their products look alike, work alike, have similar controls, buttons and things that you click on that do something. They're working hard to try to make their products easier to learn and use because they all look the same and all work the same. So you'll get a glimpse of what the SOHO UI looks like. And from what I've been told, that is also what the next rewrite of the user interface of the Infor CRM web client, that is also going to be a SOHO architected interface. And if that's true, that's exciting because it actually is very modern and very slick looking, and I love that design decision. They're going to introduce multi-regional pick lists. So pick list values can now be filtered by region. Mobile 4.0 also is a truly responsive product. I'll show you the old one versus the new one side by side, so it'll make a little more sense when we talk about, well, what does responsive really mean? And then we also now in mobile support multi-language and regional settings, not just pick lists, but so that's been introduced in 4.0 as well. And then kind of the really big one is offline notes. So the current mobile version of Infor CRM has offline read-only capability. So meaning if you don't have an internet connection, you're in a dead zone somewhere in the US, you could still bring up the application assuming you have records briefcased, but they're read-only. You can't add any data, you can't edit anything. They are just dipping their toe into being able to do something offline. So I'll show you how offline notes works in the 4.0. And then 8 or XBAR 1.3.8 is also coming out in Q1, and that is supposed to be mostly performance improvements, not really a design change that we've seen yet, but we'll wait and see what that's going to look like here too. And then I'll get into Q2. They are going to be releasing, I don't want to use the word of vertical, but they're going to be releasing versions of the mobile platform that are optimized for field sales, and then another version later for field service. So it will be built upon this mobile 4.0 I'll show you today, but rather than being this horizontal universal interface that works for everybody, no matter what hat you're wearing or what role you play, they are going to be producing versions that are more focused on optimizing efficiency for somebody who's just a sales guy who doesn't need all the service-related functionality, and likewise for a field service person who doesn't need all the sales-related functionality. So I'm kind of excited to see what that really consists of. I think it's a great idea. And then we do know too that there is a rewrite of XBAR coming out 2.0, and they're actually calling it a light version of XBAR. And it's number 2.0, but it's going to be like named XBAR Lite. And so that's going to have limited functionality, but some similar functionality for Outlook for Mac users. Macs are really gaining traction in the business world, and I get it. So Infor is coming out with a plugin for the Microsoft Outlook Mac version of the software that's going to have XBAR-like functionality and is going to be configurable as well. So you can make some changes in the screens and fields that are part of the interface itself. And then if you fast forward over here to the second half of the year, they're also coming out with XBAR for Gmail. And again, that is going to be a light version, not as robust as the version you have today running in Microsoft Outlook on a PC, but it is going to have a lot of the same functionality built into it, which is cool. We do get asked for that a lot. Okay, so let's get into the mobile 4.0 here. Take a look at that. All right, so this is the current mobile, and as you can see, if you use it today, its interface, generally speaking, is built on scrolling. And when I say scrolling, I mean scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. If you're looking at a list of leads, the only viewing capability you have is to do a lot of scrolling. And here's what there looks like. Same thing's going to happen over here to accounts, and we just look at all the records. This is what you get. A lot of wasted space. And so what they've done in 4.0 is they have switched to tiles, and the tiles give you a whole lot more information and make much better use of the real estate that's available on the screen, which I think is terrific to see that. And you still scroll, but you're obviously not scrolling nearly as much because they're fitting a lot more data on the screen. So that's what the account screen would look like. And these icons are active, meaning if I click on that, it takes me to the details about that record. And then if you click here, here's your tabs that show you additional data in the little tiles for Abbott Limited. So if we go back to, let's take a look at contacts here. Here's our opportunities. It's very quick, very responsive. And they've added some things here that allow you to configure. This is a configurable drop-down menu, meaning the user can pick and choose what they see, these quick actions, for example. So if I want to go, look at the products that are related to this opportunity, I don't have to click on the opportunity, click on the other tab, then click on products to go see it. I can just say, well, show me the products that are part of that opportunity. So with one click, I was able to go right to the products tab for that particular opportunity. which I think is pretty slick. And again, as I said, this is configurable, so your users can pick and choose what the quick actions are that they want associated with the different types of record sets. The other thing you can do is change colors. So they have style sheets that they can apply. So if you like a more darker looking interface, you can turn on the dark mode or high contrast. You can turn that on, but they go a step further and allow you to change the color palette. Not sure how useful that is unless you're trying to match your outfit of the day or something, but here you can change the color of the toolbars and the splitters and so forth in different colors. Not as exciting, but okay. So this also has the contour distance search capability that we saw in 8 or in 3.6 mobile. And so what this is doing is it's showing me through our geocoding feature, here's the customers that are closest to where I am right now. And you can change the customer or account type over here and say, well, only show me my prospects that are nearby me, and you can do that. This is not new, but I'm just showing it to you because it's fairly new in the system. Okay, so let's get to offline notes, which is really a brand new feature. So if you launch mobile from your phone and it decides you don't have an internet connection, what can you do? Well, in the current one, really nothing except look up records that you briefcased. But in this version, we have offline notes. Pretty simplistic here, but I think it gets the job done, and here's what I mean. So if I click on a new note, I can say here is a new note and save it. Okay, big deal. Once you get back to the office, let's say you've been collecting notes all day long, or maybe for the last hour or two, you've been adding notes because you need some notes added to CRM. Your choices are wait until you have a connection, or now you can add the note in the offline notes section. And then when you are back in Wi-Fi range and or on your cellular data plan, you can click on these little dots and complete the record. So now you can say, well, while I was offline and I took this note, I'm actually at Abbott Worldwide. So I can click on that record, and it was with Jonathan, and I can link it to an opportunity, and there's only one. Now when I save this note, it becomes a history item for that record. So that what I just showed you is what happens when you're back and connected to the internet. So you don't have orphan notes. You do until you go through and link them all, as you just saw me do. And this is not a database. This is storing this information on your browser cache, which is why it's fairly limited right now, but they do plan to add more of this kind of functionality for offline in the future versions. So anyway, that's mobile 4.0 and the whole SOHO interface. You will see it's very stark, very clean, very purpose-built. And I think it's great. I think it's very efficient. All right, well, Bree, that's everything I was hoping to show today. And I'm going to ask now if there might have been any questions that came in.
There were, Scott, and I will just take it from the top and we'll work our way down. So our first question goes back to the beginning of today's webinar, wondering about international address update, if there's going to be a way to update existing data from 8.2 or 8.3.
I'm not sure I understand the question as far as updating data. I don't know if I understand that question. I apologize.
If you want to type in and give us more details, we'd be happy to try and parse that out for you. So I'll move on to the next one.
Okay.
Is Infor XA an integrated ERP with Infor CRM?
I have never heard of Infor X. I don't know what that is. XA, I'm sorry. Yes, that is one of the Infor ERP packages. XA does support the IN integration to CRM.
Now we had a question, this was up on the slide, Scott, and just wondering, what is Ignite Analytics?
That's what they're calling Burst.
Okay. Well, I learned something new as well.
Burst is a company, and that's the product.
Okay. All right. So our next question is, does 8.4 support installation on Windows Server 2016? And if not, do you know when that's planned to be added?
It does support it, yes. Yep.
Easy. All right. The next one is, what Infor CRM version is required to support mobile version 4? Has that been determined yet?
It has not been determined yet. That's a question I was wondering myself, but because there's no documentation, we literally grabbed this off of a code repository called GitHub, so they don't have any documentation on it yet. I'm using it with 8.4, and as soon as we can find out, and certainly once it's released, we'll know the answer for sure. I don't know the answer if it requires 8.4 or if it might work with older versions. Here's what I will tell you. We have it working with 8.2. Now, whether or not that's a supported version, that's kind of the question of the day. So I'll partially answer your question by saying we have Mobile 4 working against an 8.2 database. Now, we're not using it in production, but we got it working, and it looks like it works, and it functions. There might be some gotchas out there that we haven't stumbled across yet, but fingers crossed it would work with some of those older versions, which would be great.
All right. Our next question is regarding offline notes.
Yeah.
She wanted to confirm you cannot record it as a meeting or phone call, but only a note?
Right. So once you create the note and then you save it and then you connect it and you say you want to save it to CRM, this is the only options. Now keep in mind this is beta, so they may add more capability. It does create this as a note history record type. So it's a history record type of a note, not a phone call and not a meeting. But they may add that. I don't know why they couldn't. So they may add that in the the final release. But it's just going to add a note to Notes in History today.
All right, Scott. We're going to come back to that first question and see if this clarification helps. We have a large 8.2 database with lots of old international data in the wrong fields. Well, 8.4 has some kind of tool to help convert that data. All right, that makes sense.
No, it does not. No, it does not. It does have a utility that converts your database and all of its fields to Unicode, but it doesn't actually do anything with restructuring the data.
All right. Well, Scott, that is it for questions. As always, if you think of something later, go ahead and shoot Scott or myself an email. If you don't have that, info@customerfx.com is a good one. Scott or myself will see that and we can handle those questions if you have any. And then we will make the recording available online, customerfx.com, as I mentioned at the beginning of today's webinar. So that is all I have. Scott, do you have anything else?
Nope, I think we're all good. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your time and letting us share this with you, and watch our website, because as we learn more, we'll keep blogging about what we're finding. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.